Hello and welcome to Organic Edible Garden. In the full moon phase, our focus again is on root crops, and today the hero is beetroot. This week we're going to look at different ways to grow beetroot, and then we're going to test the pH of our soil to check the alkalinity or acidity. This is always good when preparing a new bed. Beetroot is a wonderful crop to grow for home gardeners and can be sown all year round in warmer areas. For the home gardener, there are three ways of growing your beetroot. Firstly, there are seeds that are sown directly into the ground. Secondly, we can sow the seeds into a seed tray which can then be planted into the ground or placed into a punnet and grown larger. And finally, beetroot seedlings which can be planted directly into the ground and are off to a faster start. The benefits of sowing seeds directly into the ground is it's more economical, we can have large areas so we can actually bulk up our beetroot seedlings, and in between that we can thin it out and use the leaves in salads. The negative part of planting seeds directly into the ground is that during wet weather the seeds can rot. The other option is pricking these guys out, putting them in punnets and growing them larger. This is great for people with smaller plots who don't want a large amount of beetroot. While we're here, I'll show you the best way to plant the seedlings out. Firstly, we use a punnet and fill it with a good potting mix. It's important the mix has drainage. While pricking out your seedlings, it's important that the soil in your seed tray is dry. Your seedlings separate easier and it's less damage to the roots. Also, it is important that you don't touch the roots or the stems of the seeds. Because the soil is dry, it is easy to shake off the soil around the roots. By grabbing by the leaves, we make a small hole and we put the beetroot in. Now the beetroot seedlings need to be watered, put in a sunny spot, and within 2 weeks they should look like this. When planting any vegetable in the garden, it's all about the soil. In this case today, we're planting beetroot, which is a root crop and needs more phosphorus and potassium than nitrogen. Too much nitrogen in the soil, you'll get a lot of leaf growth at the expense of the bulb. We're going to add our phosphorus or potassium in the form of volcanic rock dust. This will give it its boost without the nitrogen content. If you don't have access to volcanic rock, other additives you can use are bone meal, banana skins, or even ash from your fireplace. We're also going to add some of the rock dust to these beetroots which were planted by seed about 6 weeks ago. This will give them an extra boost and they'll size up quickly. Here's how we sow the seeds directly into the ground. We make a row. And remember, beetroot seeds themselves are quite large, so they can be sown fairly deeply in the soil. We've planted them quite close together, and as they grow, we can thin them out. All the beetroot we thin out, we can use the leaves in salads. We'll cover over the seeds, water them in, and let nature take its course. Next, we're going to carefully push out some of these seedlings, not to disturb the roots. A trowel's not necessary, your hands are fine, and we'll try and separate these beetroots. Once separated, we can plant them in the line. You probably want to plant them about 5 centimetres apart. We can thin these out during the course, and again they can be used in salads. And finally, we're going to plant the ones that have already been potted up into punnets. There's very little root disturbance here, and we've planted them on the outside because they'll be harvested first. And then finally a good water to bed everything in. don't forget to water the fertiliser in for the big beets. In a few weeks' time, we're going to plant our tomatoes in this bed, so now's a good time to test the pH of your soil. You can do this by getting a pH soil testing kit. These are available from most garden centres and hardware stores. To test the soil, we need to find the soil from about 5 centimetres under the surface. We take that out, we dry it, take all the chunky bits out, and then we can use that for testing. This is one I did yesterday. It's nice and fine and easy to use. By using the empty tube, we put about 1 centimetre of soil. Using the spoon supplied, we put some barium sulfate in. The next thing we do, we fill it up with some pH testing solution. Up to about 2.5 centimetres high. We put the lid back on and give it a really good shake. Put the tube down and leave it for about 10 minutes for the colour to develop. You can check the colour against the tube on the back of the chart. It will show the darker red for acidity and the darker green for alkalinity. Ideally, most gardens are between 5.5 and 7, but this depends on your vegetables. Your chart also gives you a list of vegetables and fruit and the pH range they prefer. If our soil is acid, we're going to add lime to the garden. This puts calcium, which is a really important mineral, back into the soil. It's also what tomatoes really need. However, if our soil is alkaline, we don't want to add more lime, so we're going to put gypsum in instead. Gypsum is also a form of calcium, but does not affect the pH of the soil. Ten minutes have passed, and we'll come back and the test is showing us a light green, which shows pH neutral on the scale. In that case, we don't want to add any more lime, but I still want the calcium in the soil, so I'm going to add a gypsum. Another good benefit of gypsum is it opens the particles in the soil, provides better drainage, and is particularly good for people on clay soils.